Alright, so here are the meta legendary weapons in Age of War. For hammers, we've got Hanuman's Gada, Forge Light, and Rage Hammer. Forge Light and Rage Hammer both have the same damage stats. Rage Hammer you find in the Unnamed City. It's kind of farmable. I'd put it in terms of farmability. I'd probably put it in like A or B. It's pretty farmable. Forge Light, at the moment you can buy it from Mechamosis when it's on cycle. So I'd put that in S tier for farmability. You can get heaps of these super easily. And then we also have Hanuman's Gada. This one I'd put in like D or E tier for farmability, because this is a drop from the skeleton key chest. So it's a really hard weapon to farm reliably, but it does have the highest damage of all the hammers. The downside to it is its weight. So with a weight of 50, you'll probably want to go at least 2 pieces with carry capacity, or put 5 points into expertise, and maybe sacrifice 5 attribute points somewhere else. Because Rage Hammer has a Berserk effect, which I believe it reduces stamina on targets hit, but I'm not quite sure. Designed to cause rage in your opponent, giving them strength but sapping their stamina. I think that's a useless effect, so even though it's like a somewhat farmable hammer, and it does have the same damage as Forge Light, if that's the effect, I think it's pretty shit, especially with the current stamina system. So I think Forge Light is better every time. And then you've got Hanuman's Gada. Both the Forge Light and Hanuman's Gada you can apply poison to, so I'd put these at the top. I wouldn't really worry about Rage Hammer. In terms of maces, there's only one mace you should really care about, and that's Momentum. It's great for your thralls, and it's also great for the player. You can do roll light attack, and it's pretty effective for combat. Obviously, I think the meta right now is bows and spears. Anyone who's half decent on a spear will easily space you if you try to use this on them. But it is super effective for melting bosses because of its high base damage and high armor pen. So this is also in S tier in terms of farmability, because you can also buy it from Mechamosis. Onto the great swords, we have Sword of Crom, Annihilator, and Papyrus Blade. Sword of Crom, I'd probably put it in B tier. In terms of farmability, there are 4 bosses in the Unnamed City that drop it, or have a chance to drop it. So yeah, I put that in B tier. It's a pretty farmable weapon, and it is the best two-handed sword. You can apply poison to it. It has the potential to one-shot players with a special attack, and with the current stamina system, you'll have no issue using it. As long as you roll before every attack, you get free attacks, and you can just keep doing that, and you'll have no issues using this sword. As long as you don't swing it without using rolling thrust first, because then you'll use all your stamina up at once. So that's the best great sword. Below that we've got the Annihilator. The Annihilator I would put in probably A tier for farmability. The Annihilator is a 25% chance to drop from He Who Walks Below inside the Warmaker dungeon. He's a blue glowing skeleton that you come across after you kill the 3 Giant Kings and you get the key to the Inner Sanctuary. Yeah, so I'd put this in A for farmability. Yeah, you can kill him off spawn, and you'll have a decent chance of getting this. The other weapon he drops is the World Breaker. I've got that here. Now, I would probably put that above the Rage Hammer, to be honest, on second thought. But I wouldn't put it above Forge Light because you can't apply poison to it. It has the same damage but more armor penetration, so if you do want more armor penetration, it is good. But you are missing out on the poison application, and it doesn't have any like super special effect. Which puts it slightly below Forge Light just because of the poison. Okay, back to the great swords. We've got the Papyrus Blade. In terms of farmability, I'd put this in probably D tier because again it is a skeleton key weapon, so really low chance to get this. But it is a really good strength weapon that has a paper cut effect. Unfortunately can't apply poison, but it is still a great sword. Now for spears, in terms of strength spears, we have the Maudlin and Gavain's Rusty Pike. Now unfortunately neither of these strength spears can have poison applied to them. Maudlin applies Corruption and Gavain's Rusty Pike applies Diseased. Diseased is pretty garbage. It's like a really low bit of damage that ticks over a really long period. Kind of like food poisoning. But in terms of damage, these are the best ones. Now, we do have the Impaler. I'll show you that one. This one actually has a better status effect than either of them, Gouging, and actually has better damage than Gavain's Rusty Pike. The reason I don't have it here is because it's currently, I believe it's a mistake. The durability is only 400. So again, if you get it, it's a really good pike, except for the fact that it's only got 400 durability, and being a legendary, you can't repair it. Hopefully Funcom fixes this, and then I would put it maybe even above Maudlin. But like Gavain's Rusty Pike, in terms of farmability, I'll put it in D tier because it's a skeleton key chest on. It comes from a skeleton key chest. The reason I would put them in this order right now is number one, because the durability on this. This is going to last you a lot longer and still has really good damage. Maudlin, I put it at the top because in terms of farmability, I'd put it on A. Maybe even A+, because there's just one giant king that you have to farm in the Warmaker. That is the Warmaker's adjutant. And he only drops, he has a 100% chance to drop one of 4 weapons. And one of those 4 weapons is Maudlin. So in terms of farmability, this spear is really good. It's also the highest damage spear. In terms of one-handed swords, we have the Predatory Blade up the top. That is the best one-handed sword at the moment. Now, the Predatory Blade, in terms of farmability, I'd put it in probably A or B+. I'd probably put it in B+, actually. It's not a guaranteed drop, and there are a few other drops, more than just 4, compared to the Maudlin. But this drops from the Brute in the Unnamed City. And he has a chance to drop a legendary. And he has a few different legendaries that drop, such as armors and other weapons and that. So it is a fairly farmable item, but I'd probably put it in B, B+. Okay, secondly, we'll have El's Drinker. Now, El's Drinker, in terms of farmability, S tier, you can buy it from Mechamosis. This meta with the current roll system, combo weapons are kind of garbage, which is why I put the Predatory Blade way above the rest of the weapons. Even though previously, before there were stamina changes, I would have put El's Drinker and Belias above it because of the the powerful combo, heavy attack combos. But with the way stamina works now, combo weapons aren't as good, and you're more likely to want to be rolling around and you just utilizing the light attack, which is why the Predatory Blade is so strong now, and these weapons aren't as strong. But these are going to be your highest damage one-handed swords, apart from the Predatory Blade, and this is the most farmable one, because you can just buy it from Mechamosis. Belias is going to be on the same level, except instead of a bleed effect, it's going to have a corrupted effect. And this one is one of the other weapons that drops from the same boss as Maudlin. And then we also have Dueling Blade of the Hawk, which is D tier in terms of farmability, but it can apply poison, which is really good. Now, in terms of the two-handed axes, we've only got one weapon, and that is Scythe of Thag. This one you get from the end boss in the Wine Cellar dungeon. It is a rare drop from him. He can drop 3 different weapons, but he's not guaranteed to drop a weapon. So it's probably... I'd probably put it in C tier in terms of farmability. It only drops from one specific boss, and you can sit there and farm him again and again as he respawns. But it is a rare drop from him. But you wouldn't be wasting your time because you get good recipes from him, and you get Kari Steel, and there are also 2 other weapons that you can get from him, which are decent weapons. In terms of one-handed axes, there are different opinions on this, but in my opinion, Axe of the Lion is the best. It is a predatory axe, which means that only the light attacks do damage, the heavy attacks do not. Same as the Predatory Blade, but the damage on it is really good, and to be honest, again, like the one-handed sword, I don't think that combo weapons are very valuable anymore, until they perhaps make changes to the way stamina works. So I think that a light attack is going to do just fine, and again, it can melt bosses just like Momentum Mace. And its sprint attack is still going to be effective. It applies a cripple, comes out quite quickly. In terms of farmability though, I'd put that at D tier. It used to be that you could buy this from the carts, the Catan caravans that used to be dotted around the map. There was one you could buy it from, but you can't buy it anymore. It's not in the Mechamosis pool. So yeah, I'd put that in D tier now, in terms of farmability. Next we have Act of Violence, which is a really good strength axe. I'll actually put Glimmer Moon. Just remember Glimmer Moon. I'll put that on the same tier actually. Glimmer Moon. I've actually changed my mind. Glimmer Moon I'll put at the top. Because this one is S tier in terms of farmability. You can just buy it from Mechamosis, and has good damage, and you can apply poison to it. Unfortunately, it does glow, which you might like. It might be annoying. Same as Forge Light. It's kind of annoying for me that it glows, but you might like that. It does glow, but in terms of farmability and damage, this is really good. Active Violence, the same deal, but it does have Executioner, which means you can't apply poison to it. And then we have Yogg's Touch. Yogg's Touch is going to be good if you need the armor pen, but it has it applies corruption, so you're not going to be able to apply poison to that one either. It is quite farmable though, because it comes from one of the other giant kings in the Warmaker dungeon. So in terms of farmability, I'll put this one probably at an A. We've also got Fangs of the Red Mother for the throwing axes. In terms of farmability, it's not guaranteed that the Red Mother drops any weapon at all. So probably similar to the Predatory Blade, I'd put it at a B+. In terms of bows, we now have strength bows. Now, one thing to note about these weapons that are maybe let's call them abnormally classified. If you had any of these weapons in your collection before the Age of War update, they will remain whatever weapon type they were before the update. If you didn't have an attachment on them, they will have their stats, their damage stats updated, and they will receive the power draw, etc. If they were completely new and they hadn't been touched at all, they would receive the new durability, the new damage stats, and the power draw effect. What they would not have received is the strength weapon type. Ones that are obtained post Age of War update, they will now be strength weapons. And so these are going to be what's available for that. In terms of farmability, Eye of Khan is the best because you can buy that from Mechamosis. In terms of how good these bows actually are, Kari bow has better damage than these. So they're not fantastic, but if you are going to strength build, it is pretty nice to have these bows, and it's really easy to get Eye of Khan. The other ones, Decato's Voice, again, B+. You can farm it from one of the Giant Kings in Warmakers. And Bessie's Bow, I put in D. It comes from the Skeleton Key Chest, I believe, so it is quite difficult to obtain. And that's going to do it for strength weapons. Now, when we come to agility weapons, for pikes, because we now have agility pikes, the Black Dragon Pike is going to be the best. It has 70 damage and 19 armor pen with a master weapon fitting. And then we're going to have the Vaulting Pole, which is 65-21. Now, this is debatable. Both of them are D tier in terms of farmability because they both come from skeleton key chests. But what's debatable is the top tier. Now, Black Dragon Pike, it has a bleed special effect, which means you can't apply poison to it. The bleed doesn't stack. Maybe they'll change it so that the bleed stacks, but at the moment it doesn't stack. It also has lower durability than the Vaulting Pole. So it is the higher damage of the two, but you can't apply poison, and I believe poison is really strong still, especially with rolling being so readily available. Any overtime damage that you can do while they're invulnerable to attack is going to be worthwhile. So take that as you will. Personal preference, I'd say the Vaulting Pole is the better weapon because you can apply poison. But if you want the highest damage, you have Black Dragon Pike. And if all you want is a bleed to be able to stop someone from climbing, and it's something that's not easy to cleanse like poison is, with an antidote, Black Dragon Pike is really good. In terms of bows, we have Reach of the Red Mother is still the best legendary bow. There's not really any competition. All the other ones are pretty bad. In terms of farmability, I would put it perhaps in B, maybe C tier. Reach of the Red Mother is not likely to drop this. It is quite hard to farm up, and it's especially hard to get multiple of them. but if you have the patience to do Red Mother over and over, you are sure to get this. And for the best arrows, we actually have a new best arrow, thanks to Nasus for pointing this out to me. We have the Mandibles of Atlaknacha, and this is farmed from a spider in the volcano. And because not many people will know about this, I'll show you that now. Now, as you can see, when you come to the volcano, you want to head to the pens, and it's the southeast of the pens. You'll come down these stairs over here, down this pathway, and right here is where the spider spawns. So if you want to farm it, if there's a thrall here, you'll have to kill the thrall, and then you'll have to come back when it respawns, and hopefully the spider will spawn here. And when you kill the spider, it is guaranteed to drop either 50 to 100 of the arrows. So it is pretty easy to farm. You don't need a tool for it. You're guaranteed to get at least some arrows every time it spawns here and you kill it. And they have 23 health damage and 50% armor penetration. So really good arrows now. In terms of great swords, because obviously everything needs to be turned into an agility weapon, we have Belbathor's Razor. In terms of farmability, S tier, you can buy it from Mechamosis. Really good sword, really good damage stats, and you can apply poison to it. In terms of two-handed hammers, we have Bector Corbin, and this one, in terms of farmability, is in D tier. It comes from the skeleton key chest, but it is really good stats, and you can apply poison to it. So if you do get this, it's a really good hammer to have. Katanas, we have Musashi's Black Blade and Blade of the Seven Winds. Now if you're looking at farmability, Blade of the Seven Winds is definitely better. I'll put that in probably C tier. It comes from the Red Mother Dragon. But in terms of strength, I'd put Musashi's Black Blade at the top. It has really high base damage, decent armor pen, and it applies cripple on every hit, which is actually pretty good for a weapon that spams as fast as the katana does. Because of the attribute system change in Age of Sorcery and the way buffs works, base damage is the most important stat, because all the buffs are percentage based. So the higher base damage you have on a weapon, the more multiplied damage you're going to get. But in terms of farmability, this is a skeleton key drop, and so it is definitely not a very easily found weapon compared to Blade of the Seven Winds, which is more easily obtainable. For daggers, we have the Shank. The Shank, I'd put it in the top, even though it's not necessarily the highest damage daggers. I put it at the top because of cripple, and cripple is really important with daggers in being able to stick to your opponent. And being able to hit someone after their roll ends, and they have a second where they can't sidestep because of the cripple's low, and they haven't yet started to roll again. I'd say cripple is the most important thing, but I do not think that daggers are very good in the new patch. I haven't tested them extensively. There are some builds that you can do with oil of balance that I've heard are really strong, but in my opinion the Shank is the most farmable, apart from Daggers of Nameless Days, because Daggers of Nameless Days, they can actually be bought from Mechamosis, and they have slightly more damage, but they don't apply cripple. They do have more durability, so if you want to put oil on these instead of poison, you'll get a decent amount of time from them. In terms of claws, we have Bestial Claws. The stats aren't fantastic, but I do think that the claws are somewhat easier to use in Age of War than daggers are, simply because you can more consistently and easily hit someone at the end of their roll because your attacks are directly in front. They have a really good hitbox, and unlike the daggers, which tend to strike It's more pronounced that they strike from left and right, whereas the claws, sorry, they strike directly in front of you, like say a spear would. It is, I'd say, an easy attack to land. It just lacks the mobility that daggers have. These bestial claws, they drop from were hyenas found in the den. So if you kill these were hyenas, they have a chance to drop the bestial claws. When it comes to javelin, we've got the Riptide, which is going to be the best javelin in the game. This grants water breathing when held, and this is found in the unnamed city. In terms of farmability, I would put this at maybe a B. It is farmed from the white bat in the unnamed city. And that does it for legendary weapons. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments your favorite legendary weapons, and good luck in the Exile Lands.